Looks like we might be live with real laggy video. I got to get the chat open. There we go. I know I'm late, Chris. There he is. Henry's here. Welcome aboard. We had technical difficulties, and we're still actually working on them, of course. Yeah, the video is going to be laggy, and my question is, how's the audio? Is the audio okay? Audio is fine. Okay, good. So, unfortunately, the video is going to look pretty bad today, and there's nothing I can do about it. We are overstressing a computer. We know we're overstressing a computer, and we're going to have to live with it. So, we have a guest today, and that was part of the technical difficulties, was getting everything working. But I think it's going to work out, even if the video is a little choppy. So one more check on audio. Tell me what you think, and I think we're going to get on to the program. Robert is eating fried chicken with dirty shop fingers, as it should be. So somebody give me a final audio check, and we'll get underway. I think we're doing okay. I'm seeing audio going out. I don't have another monitor on the video. Probably put one on. Seeking one more piece of advice on the audio. Audio is fine. Okay, that's all I needed. So good morning, and welcome aboard. We are obviously not in the shop today. We're in the office, and we came up here to get more computer power and failed for reasons which we'll talk about another day. So today we're gonna be talking to a good friend of mine, Aaron Walla, who is shopping for a new grinder, and I thought that his experience is going to be very helpful for everybody. Art that makes art can hear me in Idaho. Excellent. So I don't think there's much old business. Everything is going great in the shop. We're actually in 6-inch PFG Stone production today. Should be finished and shipping for Monday. And that is all good. We got the whole family at home, which is awesome. And we're having a good time there. Some folks asked about Mom, and the good news is that Mom is having a great time in her new apartment, and everything's going great. 90+% of the boxes are unpacked and gotten rid of. So that is continuing to approach 100%. So without further delay, let's get right into it. I'm going to bring in Aaron, and we're going to talk a little bit with him about his new grinder requirements. There he is. And we got to get your audio on. And there you are. Say hello, Aaron.
How's it going today, everybody?
So Aaron is tell everybody where you're located, because I don't think everybody knows.
I'm located in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and right now I'm standing in my old shop, which is a basement shop. Um, it's it's kind of like a dual hobby shop. I've got a small mill, lathe, and surface grinder, but I recently just moved and bought a place, and now have a 650 square foot shop that I'm starting to finish. So we just finished spray foam insulation yesterday, and I'm just gonna keep making progress until I can move all this stuff over.
That's awesome. Now, you are a tool maker by trade, is that right?
Correct. But specifically, I'm an injection mold maker. So I make plastic injection molds for mass production of plastic parts, and I love the trade.
Awesome. So, Aaron and I met on Instagram years back when I was making PFG Stones, and Aaron said, "You know, you really ought to make a set that are smaller, that could fit in a small toolbox." And that was the origins. There they are. That was the first ever set of the 4-inch minis that we sell over at pfgstones.com, and Aaron was the inspiration for that. So, talk a little bit about the. I guess we're going to limit our discussion to grinding today, and talk a little bit about your grinding capability as it stands right now.
Okay. Right now, I have a Herrig 612. It came out of a technical school, which might make you think it's all beat up because they usually are. But this one has barely been used. It's from the late 90s, and it's a very good machine. I put a VFD on it, and it has variable speed control with the turn of a knob now. But it doesn't have a DRO, and it doesn't have um, wet grinding capability. I mean, I guess I could run coolants on it, but it would make a huge mess. So what I'm looking to change is um, I'm looking for a machine that's got a very accurate DRO and has the ability to grind wet, but primarily a tool room grinder. I can show you guys my grinder if you like, but the laggy video might be a problem.
Go ahead and give us a quick shot, and then come back to where you are, and at least this way everybody will get a picture of it. Stay horizontal though, because that's how we're set up.
Oh yeah. All right. I'm trying to figure out how to flip
Hey,
the camera.
if this was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Nope, that's not right. I'm sure it looks funny right now. Well, I don't know how to flip the camera, so we're just gonna do it like this.
That works. There we go.
So I've got permanent magnetic chuck. I would hardly call this, good dust collection setup, but it works for now. And then this is the variable speed control.
Yep.
So when I turn it on, I can set the speed, and that's really nice for when you're using super abrasives or certain ceramic wheels. Um, it gives you another variable that you can control.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about using diamond wheels, and how when you go to dress a diamond wheel, typically you're going to be running slower, so that that's a really good application for a VFD to get the wheel slow. Um, and what type of metals are you grinding typically?
I'm primarily grinding hardened tool steels, so A2, H13, 420 stainless, S7, P20, and a lot of other fancier versions of those metals, like Stavax, which is a 420 stainless that has less impurities, so it can be shined to a higher finish.
Yep.
Um,
And
but occasionally,
this is all mold applications, right?
correct, yeah, mold and tooling really.
Okay. So tell us about how you plan to bring in another grinder.
Okay, so I use at work a Mitsui surface grinder. We have a 612s and 8x18s, and we have Sony DROs on them and electromagnetic chucks. And I find that I just really enjoy running those machines. The Mitsui 612 is very light and fast, and it's a pleasure to use. Um, what I'm looking for is something where I can get a good balance of kind of tool room grinding capabilities. So, I want something that can raise the spindle up pretty high, as high as possible. I'm looking for something that I can do rotary grinding on, like working with a spin indexer or a flat spin. But I also want to just balance being able to just grind up a bunch of stuff fast. And so because of that, I've also considered um, a grinder made by Jones and Shipman, which is called the 540. Um, and that has auto traverse on it. So that could be really handy um, when you're just having to grind up a bunch of blocks. Otherwise, I think just a manual grinder works best for my purposes. Now, ultimately, I would like to get the kind of unicorn of the tool room grinding world, which is the Parker Majestic CNC machine that Adam, the machinist, has. That thing is a beauty, but it's somewhere around $130,000, and it's going to take me a while to get there.
I think it's really smart to approach it the way you're approaching it, which is get what you need right now to make money, and then let it make the money that for the next machine. So
That's the goal.
yeah, that's a sensible way to do it. Pretty cool. I'll remind everybody, by the way, if you have questions, pop them into the chat, and I will relay them to Aaron. So feel free to put questions in asynchronously. You don't have to wait for a break. So were you looking for a used machine or a new machine at this point?
I've gotten some quotes for new machines. Um, I'm not sure if I'm going to go that route. Part of me, um, part of me thinks it would be a good idea to get a new one, and knowing that I'm going to need a tool room grinder for potentially the rest of my life, I like the idea of having something that's brand new. Um, but the base price for a Mitsui grinder is about 31 grand. And it's about the same whether it's a 612, 618, or 818. I think the 818 is only about $1,000 more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, once you option that out with just some basic stuff like a DRO, that's adding about 4 grand, and coolant and a chuck, it's a couple grand. I the way I see it, it's probably going to end up being around 38 or 40 grand. So when I look at that, I think, okay, this is money that could be spent, on other machines probably, and I think that I can find something that's really good in the 10 to maybe even 20,000 range in a used machine. Now, you can find surface grinders all day long for a couple $1,000, and maybe I'll stumble into a deal and find one like that. But what I'm looking at primarily in used grinders is either buying a very nice, more recent model, like within the last 20 years, or something that's been freshly rebuilt. And so I found a lot of interesting stuff in my search. For Mitsui grinder, it looks like I can get one that's been rebuilt, new turkite, scraped in, um, basically replace everything except for the spindle bearings for around 13 grand, which is
That's not
which is
bad.
not this is not too bad. Um, Now, I'm also looking at Parker Majestic. I haven't used them before. I've really only um, read about them and seen them online. There don't seem to be many here, but
You know, the only time I think the first time I heard of Parker Majestic was from Adam Demuth. Uh,
yeah,
I think that's what raised them in my consciousness that they're, you know, even a thing. Have they been just sort of sticking to the automotive industry, or is it that we're just living under a table, which is possible?
I honestly I think it's probably a cost thing. All of the used Parkers that I see seem to come from the East Coast, Ohio and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, East Coast, but everywhere else seems like it's Mitsui's, Brown and Sharps, just other stuff. So I, the only thing I can think of is cost. Parker Majestics are made in the United States, and that always costs extra. So a new Parker manual grinder is about 65 grand compared to the Mitsui at 30 grand. But they do have other options where they can either rebuild machines or just kind of touch up a machine for you. So in the 15 to 20 grand range, I could get something from them that's been gone through and brought up to factory specs as long as it's a good candidate to start with. For a true rebuild from them, it costs about 35, $40,000.
You want me to flip through the? You sent me the Mitsui. I guess it's their general catalog. Should I
Yep,
take a look at that?
sure. Or you can pop up the pictures that I sent, and I can kind of talk about some of the features that appeal to me.
Okay. Well, let's do that. I'll bring the pictures up. Some of the pictures came in a little low res, but that's all right. So we're looking at a Mitsui, the gray machine. Oops, didn't want to do that. Uh,
So the Mitsui's, they're they're a great running machine. They have a vertical column that's you know perpendicular to the ground, so I think it would make it a lot easier for mounting a DRO versus my Herrig, which has a tapered column.
yep.
If you're buying it new from the factory, it doesn't matter. But if I'm having to install it myself, which is likely, that'll be advantageous. Um, they're um, they're very familiar for me, and so I
What motor is in the Mitsui? Is that a one horse?
they have they have a horse and a half motor, but you can also option a 2 or 3 horsepower spindle, which I would probably consider if cost wasn't a factor at least, especially for um, doing some heavy cuts. It could be nice for roughing out material, but really the horse and a half, I use that every day at work, and I'm peel grinding and pulling lots of stock off, and it works great. So another advantage with the Mitsuis is cost. It might be a little more than the Harrigs and the Chevaliers, but it's really it's on the lower end of the machines that I'm looking at.
Yep. Uh, let's see. The next picture you sent along appears to be the actually appears to be too small. Hang on. There we go. So this looks like the Parker Majestic. So you want to describe that?
So the Parker Majestic has a lot of things that appeal to me. One is that it's made in the United States, and you can call them and somebody will pick up the phone. It's very easy to talk to them to get parts. Also, it has a taller spindle by about 3 or 4 inches than the Mitsui. It's got about 20 inches of vertical travel. One of the really neat features about it is that it has elevation.
Hmm.
So, I often have to switch from, grinding at the chuck level to grinding 10, 15 inches off the chuck, whether it's because I'm doing long pins or maybe I have a sign plate or compound sign chuck, something that all eats up the vertical height very quickly. And so to be able to move all the way, move through the travels instead of having to crank the hand wheel 50
Yep.
thousandths per revolution, moving that thing 15 inches is it's quite the exercise. It's a little more exercise than I want to get at work.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so another difference between that and the Mitsui is the Mitsui's a ball weight machine, and the Parker is a flat and a V. So um,
So, talk a little bit about that from a getting the job done point of view, which is preferable.
I think that there's probably things to be said for both of them. I think when you have a flat and a V, you can just stop the table wherever you want and it'll stay there. So
Yep.
if you're dressing the wheel or something, it's not going to move on you. Whereas on a machine with roller balls, you have to lock the table, which is fine. Um, in my experience, which is limited because I've primarily used machines with rollerways, I find that they just move a little bit easier and faster, like a little bit less friction. But the flat and V machines that I have used in the past were were not in the best shape. So I haven't used anything that was in perfect condition that way. The ones that I used were not quite sticky, but it just wasn't as smooth. And when you're
Yeah.
sitting in front of a grinder for 8 hours a day, these little these little things can be nice.
The third one you sent me here appears to be the Jones and Shipman.
So that is kind of a curveball because that's not something that I had previously considered. I don't know much about them. I've never used one, but it has a lot of incredible features. And I've talked to metrological apparatus about it, and he uses similar models at work, and he is a big fan of them. So it has um, it has all of the features that you would want in a tool room grinder. It's got very nice guarding as well. I think the guarding on it is superior to what I've seen on either of the two previous machines. The front piece can be removed if you want to put a spinner with a chuck where you're going to be coming past the shielding. So that's good. It's nice to be able to remove that. Um, but the real neat thing about it is that it's got auto traverses, and they're electronic. From what I understand, they're electronic, not hydraulic, and it's very easy to set up. So I use automatic grinders at work a lot, but they're primarily the big Okamoto 12 by 24s, and setting the dogs on those machines can be kind of a pain
Hmm.
because at least at least the way I do it, I want it to stop just past the part. So I have to travel to that spot and then look under the machine for this blinking light that comes on as soon as I move the dog to the current wheel
Really,
position.
really.
Yeah, and that's like looking down the V way, the cross slide. So on this machine, they just slide. It's pretty neat. You slide them to wherever you want them, and they stay there by friction. So you can just basically set it so it's coming across the part this way, and as soon as it comes off the part, just slide that dog forward until the the table direction changes, and now you're in a perfect spot.
Hmm.
That machine's actually for sale on eBay right now for 14,000.
Mm-hmm.
It was made in 1997. Looks like it's in pretty good shape, and it comes with coolant and a Heidenhain DRO.
So where is Jones and Shipman? Where is the company?
They're they're in England.
Yeah.
They're a
Okay.
British company, but there are a fair number of their grinders over here. But I think mostly cylindrical grinders have come over.
Is it true that the English machines use tea as a coolant?
That is true,
Yeah,
yes. Cold
that's
tea.
what I heard. Which is attractive to me because I go through so
Yeah,
much of
yeah. You just top off your cup.
it. So it does look like a pretty cool machine.
It
Uh,
does. I worry I'm like getting caught up in the whole gadget appeal. I haven't used one, and it's tough to buy something sight unseen that you plan to be at for hours out of the day, you know, over the internet. So I'm actually thinking about traveling to wherever the grinder I'm going to buy is and check it out first because I'd rather spend, 500 to $1,000 on airfare in a hotel, and then I know for sure the grinder I'm buying is what I want.
yeah, I know when I bought the when I bought the MicroMaster, it came from Ohio, and my friend Eddie Reese actually went and looked at it for me,
Oh, that's great.
and brought his iPhone. We did a FaceTime, and of course, it turned out great. But I couldn't, I had to go on to somebody else's eyeballs, which was totally cool because I knew who it was, and that worked out fantastic.
Yeah,
So it sounds like you're looking at rebuilt, like factory rebuilt, in both cases, in the both the Mitsui and the
the Parkers.
Parker, and then in the other one, it's an eBay deal. I
Yeah,
guess my knee jerk reaction is use caution on the eBay deal, of course, because you're not gonna, no matter how you slice it, you're not gonna have as much faith in that.
yeah. And I think even more than that, there there are risks involved with all of these options because if you get a rebuilt grinder, unless it's factory rebuilt, you're kind of going on faith a little bit. Now, um, one of the places that I talked to about rebuilt Parkers is Seminole Machine, and Parker Majestic actually told me about them, so I feel a little bit more confident about them. But I've seen some rebuilt machines that were just junk, and so if I had to choose between a machine that's in great shape and hasn't been touched and it's you know newish, last 20 years, I might rather have that than a place that's rebuilt by a place that I don't know.
Yeah.
um,
Yep. Yeah, I think my first Harrig was a rebuilt machine, but I think it was a cherry machine to start with, so it was
yeah,
sort of spray paint and that sort of thing. So I kind of
yeah,
lucked out on that, and it was a reputable dealer. Um, but the other thing that I, based on your possibilities here, I kind of like the idea of the Parker in that it's a rebuilt machine, but you also can go knock on their door, uh,
exactly.
and that's a pretty nice way to go. Have you talked to Aaron Demuth at all on his
To Adam,
experiences? I'm sorry,
yeah,
Adam.
yeah, Adam, he really seems to swear by Parker. I did ask him if
Yeah.
about a comparison, but he hasn't ever run a Mitsui, which is
Mm.
um, which is kind of a surprise to me because almost every shop around here runs Mitsui grinders. But I think in his area, he's closer to Parker, and I think it's all Parkers out there.
Yeah.
Mitsuis just don't seem to be as common. So I haven't found anybody that's operated both of those machines that that I could talk to about it.
Hmm. Well, maybe
But the
somebody will
fact
pop up in the chat with some experience here. We'll
That'd
see.
be great, or they can contact me through my page.
Yeah. So yeah, we have your information up on the screen. Aaron's Instagram is walla.tool. And is there any other social media information that you have, or is it just Instagram?
Just Instagram.
That's cool. K-Bonk says, hope they don't use Lucas electronic components. Is that the? I think that was a dig on the Jones and Shipman.
Oh, is it?
I think. I'm not
I'm not
familiar with
familiar.
Lucas, K-Bonk. Let's see. Elmo says, have them pull the table to look at the slideway condition.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure.
yeah.
It'll also be traveling with the table off. At least if it's a ballway machine, you can't really ship those with the table on without ruining them.
And K-Bonk also says, what is there a standard testing procedure for testing a grinder's accuracy as a means for inspecting before purchase? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, there are some basic checks. Luckily, grinders are really simple machines, so it's not a ton. Um, you want to check for run out in the spindle, and you want to look at the backlash. Now, the backlash is adjustable, so if there's a bunch of backlash, it's not necessarily an issue, but it kind of tells you if people have been maintaining the machine and how fresh it is otherwise. Um, you can run an indicator on the travels, but the best way to really test it is to use it. And that's kind of tricky because, these machines are, you know, on dealer floors and they get moved around on forklifts. And every time you use a grinder, you have to set it up, you have to level it, you have to grind the chuck. And then once you got to that point, then you could grind stuff on it and see how it comes out. And that will really be the true test.
Yeah, that's a good point. That if the chuck isn't if put it a different way, if the chuck is worn, then it's hard to run a test on it.
Yes.
So that's an excellent point. I
And
know.
even if the machine's not level, that will interfere with being able to, indicate the travels.
Right. Yeah, I know when I bought the MicroMaster, the thing that Eddie said, was that the spindle sounded really quiet,
Yeah.
and that was a very important thing to hear from him. Uh, and
Yeah.
then later when we had a real inspection by the guy that does spindle rebuilding in my area, he said, in his expert opinion, it was at about half life. It's like you
Half life.
probably, yeah. He said you got another uh, 5 years on this spindle easy, and that was also good to know.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I overlooked a few things. I mean, there are a lot of tests you can do. Like the gentleman mentioned, pulling off the table. That's important. You can also look at the ways. That's an important thing. See if the machine's vibrating. Um, See
so
if the taper's worn or damaged.
your potential choice of a Jones and Shipman is being attacked relentlessly in chat. K Bonk says, "Why Brits drink warm beer?" K Bonk says, "I'm sorry." Robert Isaac says, "It still amazes me that the Spitfires flew during World War II." There was a lot of stuff flying in there, guys.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think in reality it's probably the least likely machine that I'll end up with, namely because, I don't think there's as much. Well, I take that back. I don't know what level of support they have, but it's a very unfamiliar machine. What makes it appealing is all those features because it gives me a chance to get an automatic capable grinder in a tool room grinder, which, is not very common otherwise.
Yeah, that also is where I was heading with the Micromaster. It was the first machine I had with auto traverses, all hydraulic, but
Hmm.
and that was a labor saver for sure. So
Yeah.
just showing everybody going back, that was the Jones and Shipman. This is the Parker, Parker Majestic, and the Mitsui. Uh, cool. So let's see if we have any other questions in the chat here. Henry says there is a German in the chat. Yes. Uh, we're not dwelling on World War II, mind you, but you know,
I don't know.
it was a point. So you know, there's a lot to be said for local availability and local availability of service and parts and stuff like that. So I totally get it. I you know when Adam started dealing with Parker, and that was about the same time I started dealing with Okamoto. That difference was very evident. Uh, he
Yeah.
ordered he ordered his grinder after I ordered mine, and he got his well before I got mine, and that was
Really.
because of import issues and just process issues. So there was something to be said for that. Although it was a more expensive grinder, the Parker, as you figured
Yeah.
out, was way more expensive. Um, you sent me some. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Mitsui paperwork you sent?
Sure. We can.
We just zip through that. Let me
The
put
only
that.
thing I'd say is that if you're kind of glitching on my screen, so
Yep.
if it's kind of glitchy, I don't know if people are going to be able to see it.
Are you watching the feed?
All I can see is you. I don't see any of the.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just flip through the Mitsui. You'll know what page I'm on. This is just their general catalog. Uh, their first picture is the hand feed model, right? The 200
Mhm.
mH, and these are brand new. This is their brand new product line.
Yep. And they told me that it's about um, 4 to 5 weeks for delivery.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
Where are they
And
manufacturing?
they're they're making them in Japan.
Okay.
So
Um,
it's crazy because you'd think that the transportation alone would take that long.
right. Well, they probably have some. Do they? Well, I'll pose it as a question. Do they have warehousing in the U.S.?
I know that there's a local dealer that's only a couple miles down the road. They try to keep one in stock. Um,
Yeah. That's what I went through with the Okamoto. They're built in Thailand, and they offered me one that was in Kentucky, but it was a demo unit, and
okay.
I elected uh, not to go that way because I wanted to be the guy taking the Cosmoline off the
Yep.
machine because it was my
I,
first ever chance to do that.
I can appreciate that.
um, K Bonk
Yeah.
says, "Oh, almost machining says I had the last Jones one is standing out to me. The massive coolant tank and the incremental downfeed are massive pluses on the Jones and Shipman.
And it's got built-in dust collection.
Yep." K Bonk says, other than the Parker, what are the USA made machines? Hardinge, maybe? That's a really good question.
I think Chevalier is the only one that I know about, but I don't. I'm not sure if they're still making them here. I know it's an American company, but I've not even looked into Chevaliers. The ones that I've run, I've not liked, and
I always thought those were imports. Am I missing something? Are they not imports?
I'm pretty sure it's an American company.
And then Henry says Brown and Sharp question mark. So Brown, I could speak to Brown and Sharp. Brown and Sharp's grinder business got purchased by Born and Koch, or Born and Koch, uh, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Um, and they are supporting the grinder business that is labeled Brown and Sharp. But I don't believe there's any new production of grinders that are Brown and Sharps.
Yeah. Although Adam was telling me yesterday, we were chatting, um, and he sent me a link to a company that's rebuilding MicroMasters.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you, they're very rebuildable. I gave some serious thought to taking my machine and having it rebuilt, but I wanted to go the CNC route.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's another thing. When I look at the cost of what a brand new optioned Mitsui manual grinder would cost, it's, I'm getting into the range where, like, if it's 38 grand, for example, that's getting into the range where you're within you're within, a hop, skip, and a jump from an Okamoto
oh yeah,
CNC, like your grinder.
that yeah mine.
Um,
Just for reference, mine was 55.
yeah, and so part of me thinks it's just not worth it to spend that much money unless I'm getting the CNC capability, because it's a machine I can't walk away from. That's the problem. The Jones and Shipman, at least when I'm squaring up
Yeah.
blocks and just grinding stuff in, I could walk away from it. The tool room grinding, obviously, you're gonna do manually anyways. But
Yep. Robert Isaac asks, "Is Brown and Sharp still domestic?" So I think I answered that. That a domestic company, which is Born and Coke, they are a U.S. company, and they bought the grinder line, which is Brown and Sharp. So I don't believe there's any regular production of new machines, but it is domestic. Yes. Um, and there's some
I've
talk.
heard,
Go ahead.
well, I've heard a lot of good things about those grinders, but I haven't run one, and I'm kind of set on mainly the two choices or three choices I presented today.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Henry says, I could recommend a few German or Swiss companies, but I'm not sure how the availability in the U.S. is.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to look at German or Swiss machines. I don't. I think getting one used would probably be impossible unless I had it shipped from Europe. But yeah, I haven't seen a German machine that I don't that I don't like. They make great machine tools. Swiss too.
I know if you have a very large checkbook, you can get a Renzetti.
Yeah.
Robin just rebuilt a couple of machines for one of his clients,
Oh,
and
did he?
yeah, and he
I didn't
delivered.
know he did that because I was
Well,
thinking about that. I was like, maybe I should get a Renzetti CNC machine. But I was like, he's not gonna do that. He's got better things to do than.
I think you should talk to him.
Okay.
I don't know what the numbers look like, but you could be sure that it's going to be a good machine. I,
Yeah.
I think my understanding is that there were two machines involved, and I think he did some work on two machines.
Did he
Um,
rebuild them or did he make them like his little CNC controlled
I,
machine?
I think
Just
he did
Harry.
that. He did that. It was This wasn't just a simple rebuild. This was his magic. I don't want to speak for him, and he's
Yeah.
not in chat, but I believe that was the case. Maybe we'll get it cleared up from
Okay.
Robin's mouth.
Yeah.
Um, so well, I really like what I'm hearing as far as how you're doing your homework. I think you're doing a great job,
Thanks.
and you'll end up with. I mean, even just having two grinders there is going to be a help. I know that that's something that Adam said was even from a manual standpoint, just being able to have one set up on one grinder while you're setting up another grinder was
Yep.
was an improvement.
For sure. And this grinder's in great shape. I mean, this grinder could last the rest of my life if I so desired.
Oh yeah,
But Eventually it'll go because I'll have whatever grinder I buy next in a CNC grinder.
Um, Almost says machines can be made to run really well. You can find costs to add to any used machine, but a used one should cost on par with the cost to add options to a new one. So I'm not sure I'm following that math, but I guess what he's saying is a used machine can work, which,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, and one thing that I realized when I talked to the spindle guy who was local to me was that spindles, the industry sees spindles as consumables, and when it's time to, rebuild the spindle, you rebuild the spindle, and I think home shop guys, uh, and I kind of put myself in that category. Um, we think of it as the crown jewels, and not a roll of paper towels, which is basically
Yeah.
what it is. So, if the only thing wrong with a machine is a spindle, that's just you write a $3,000 check, and it could be a matter of days, and you're back up and running.
Yeah. That's probably not going to be the route I take just because I don't know. But I it would make me nervous for like what was done to the machine, unless it was just general wear. That's something. But um,
Yep, absolutely.
another cool thing about the Mitsuis is the ways are designed. All you have to do to to kind of rebuild the travel is replace the ball bearings, or if you need to, there's these the D2 bearing ways. Just get unbolted and bolted back in.
That's pretty cool.
I'm I'm sure there's some fine tuning involved. I haven't done it myself, but
Well, we're coming close to the top of the hour. So if you guys, Robert, thank you for being here. He said he had a run. If you guys have questions, let's get them in now because we're going to be wrapping it up soon. I want to say an early thank you to Aaron for coming and sharing with us today. That's pretty cool thought process. Looking forward to your final decision and action on this. Uh,
thanks. Yeah,
you know, New machine day's coming.
yeah. And you know what's gonna dictate what machine I get is eventually I'm gonna find a machine that is just cherry, and I'm gonna be like, that's the one. You
Yeah,
know, I don't know if I'm gonna decide, okay, I'm just gonna get a Mitsui or I'm just gonna get a Parker.
yeah,
I think it's just gonna boil down to the machine itself,
yeah.
and I know I'll find it because I'll wait for it.
I know you will too, man. So thank you, almost. I appreciate it. Henry says I would be more concerned by worn out ways than a clapped out spindle, which I think Henry's basically agreeing with us that you can't. It's harder to swap out the ways than it is to swap out
Yeah,
the spindle, and
yeah,
that's a really good point. And I'll also point out that you know in this day and age of CNC machines and electronics, you're still looking at a manual machine, and it's going to make you money.
yeah,
And I think that's the important thing, especially if you're running a business. It's not just a shiny object. Is this tool going to make me money? And that's an important point. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you, Aaron.
of
I,
course.
I
Thanks for
want to
having me.
Yeah, I want to apologize for the technical issues today. We got the job done though, even if it was with a hammer and a craftsman cold chisel. We got it done. I will have this sorted out for next time, and you guys might see a random live pop up in the not too distant future testing some of our technical fixes. But thanks everybody for being here. Have an awesome weekend. Let's just check the calendar real fast because I think I didn't do this before we went live, and my computer is being very slow because that's what's the whole problem. So the 23rd is next Sunday. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have a live. We'll keep it light, and we'll be here. A couple
Yeah,
other.
maybe we should see if Robin wants to do a series on what he's doing to those grinders.
Well, now that you raise the question, I think we have to get an answer. So
Yep.
hopefully I can get the tech smoothed out here. I'll take a RASP file to the ways of this machine and see if I get this smoothed out. And if that happens, we'll have Robin back in. Of course, the ultimate goal is to be able to have a couple of guests. And if the
Yeah.
limitation is just the computer power on this side, we could solve that problem. We have some good choices. So thanks again, Aaron. Everybody, go have some fun today. Do something
Yeah,
in the
my
shop,
pleasure.
and we'll see you guys next weekend.